Amelia stood barefoot on the cold porch, her nightgown clinging to her skin as the rain poured down. The thunder roared in the distance, but the storm inside her home was louder. Marcus, her husband, held her wrist so tightly that it hurt. His eyes, once warm and loving, now burned with anger. "Who is he, Amelia?" he shouted over the rain. "Don't lie to me." Tears mixed with the rain on her face. "Marcus, please, it's not what you think. I swear." But he didn't listen. He yanked her closer, his breath hot and bitter with rage. "I saw the messages. You've been talking to someone, pretending it's your sister. Leah's gone, Amelia. Stop lying to me." Her heart sank. The messages. He'd found them. They had come from an unknown number. Messages that used her missing sister Leah's favorite words and jokes. Amelia didn't know what to believe, but deep inside, she'd felt hope for the first time in years. What if Leah was alive? What if she'd been reaching out? But now Marcus thought it meant something else. Something dirty. Something shameful. "Marcus, I didn't send those messages," she said, her voice trembling. "I think they're from Leah. I think she's trying to." He cut her off with a sharp laugh, full of disbelief and fury. "Leah is dead, Amelia. You're so desperate to believe otherwise that you've made up stories in your head." He dragged her toward the car parked in the driveway. The rain beat harder against them, soaking them both. Amelia's bare feet slipped on the wet pavement, but Marcus didn't stop. He was too far gone, consumed by his own rage and fear. "Get in the car," he ordered. "Please just listen to me," she begged, clutching her arm. "You don't understand. I said get in." His voice cracked like thunder. Amelia's heart pounded. Something about his anger felt different tonight. Too wild, too desperate. And then, just as he reached for the car door, bright headlights cut through the dark rain behind them. A car pulled into the driveway, its tires splashing through puddles. Marcus froze. His hand, still gripping the door handle, began to shake. His face changed, from fury to something else entirely. Fear. He looked over his shoulder, eyes wide, mouth tightening as if he'd just seen a ghost. Amelia turned slowly toward the lights, shielding her eyes from the glare. The rain kept falling. The engine idled. The headlights glowed brighter. Someone was here. But why did Marcus, her furious, controlling husband, suddenly look so terrified? Amelia, a 33-year-old nurse, was known by everyone at the hospital as kind, loyal, and hardworking. She was the kind of person who stayed late to comfort patients, who smiled even when she was exhausted, and who always put others before herself. But when she went home, that smile faded. Home wasn't peaceful anymore. It was a place where she walked on eggshells. Her husband, Marcus, was once her dream. When they first met, he was charming, confident, and full of warmth. He knew how to make her laugh and made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. They got married quickly, swept up in the excitement of love. But over the years, that same man changed. Behind closed doors, Marcus became someone else, cold, controlling, and unpredictable. He wanted to know where she was every hour, who she talked to, and what she spent her money on. He started making small comments that chipped away at her confidence. "You'd be lost without me. No one else would put up with you." He isolated her from her friends, saying they were a bad influence, and slowly, Amelia began to shrink inside her own life. She told herself that he just needed help, that he was stressed, that love meant being patient. But deep down, she knew she was holding together a marriage that had already fallen apart. 2 years ago, everything got worse when her younger sister, Leah, went missing. Leah was just 27, bright, free-spirited, and full of life. The last time Amelia saw her was at a family gathering. Leah and Marcus had argued that night. No one knew what it was about. Leah left angry, and no one saw her again. The police searched for months. Posters went up. Calls were made. But Leah was gone without a trace. Marcus claimed he didn't know anything, and Amelia tried to believe him, though something about his calmness bothered her. She told herself not to overthink, but the question never left her mind. What really happened that night? Then one quiet evening, months after the search ended, Amelia's phone buzzed. The message was short but strange. "Hey big sis, miss your tea." Her heart nearly stopped. That was exactly how Leah used to text her, short, playful, and affectionate. Amelia tried calling the number, but it didn't connect. She replied asking who it was, but the only response she got was another text. Tell Marcus I remember everything. Her hands shook as she read it. She tried to show Marcus the messages, hoping he'd help her figure it out. But instead he snapped. He accused her of being paranoid, and said she was clinging to false hope. After that night, he started guarding her phone, checking her messages, and acting even more secretive. Weeks turned into months, and the texts kept coming. Sometimes they stopped for days, sometimes they came in the middle of the night, always using words and phrases only Leah would know. Amelia didn't know what to believe. Was it possible that her sister was still alive? Or was someone playing a cruel trick on her? She felt trapped, torn between loyalty to the man she'd married and the growing fear that he was hiding something. Marcus's behavior kept getting worse. He started staying out late, locking his office door, and snapping at her for the smallest things. Once, she found mud on his shoes even though he claimed he'd been working late at the clinic. Another time, she caught him burning old papers in the backyard, saying they were just old bills. Amelia tried to tell herself it was stress, but her gut told her something was terribly wrong. On the night of the heavy rain, it all came crashing down. Marcus had gone through her phone again, and this time he found the messages. He stormed into the bedroom, waving the phone in her face. "Who is this, Amelia? Who's been texting you?" She tried to explain, but he didn't believe her. He didn't even let her finish her sentence. His face turned red, his voice filled the room, and all the fear she'd been holding back for years broke loose. He thought she was cheating. He thought she was lying. But what he didn't know was that those messages weren't about an affair. They were the beginning of his own truth coming to light. That night, as the rain poured down and thunder shook the sky, Marcus's paranoia reached its peak. He didn't realize the messages that drove him to rage would also uncover the secret he'd buried deep, the one tied to Leah's disappearance. The car engine hummed softly under the pounding rain. The windshield wipers moved back and forth, struggling to keep up. Inside, Marcus gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white with anger. "Tell the truth, Amelia," he shouted, his voice echoing in the small space. "Who are you talking to? Who's been messaging you?" Amelia sat trembling in the passenger seat, her hands pressed against her lap. "Marcus, please," she said softly. "It's not what you think. The messages, they're from Leah." Marcus slammed his hand against the steering wheel. "Stop it. Stop saying that," he yelled. "Leah is dead, Amelia. Let her go." The words hit her like ice. "Leah is dead?" Amelia froze. Her eyes widened as she turned to him. "What did you just say?" she whispered. Marcus didn't look at her. He stared out into the rain, breathing hard. His jaw tightened, his chest heaving with frustration. "Marcus," she said again, her voice breaking. "How do you know she's dead? No one ever found her. You said you didn't know what happened that night." He didn't answer. The only sound was the rain beating against the roof. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Something inside her shifted, a mix of fear and realization. Marcus knew more than he had ever told her. "Marcus," she said again, firmer this time. "What aren't you telling me?" He finally looked at her, his eyes full of panic. "You don't understand," he said. "You never understood." Before Amelia could respond, bright light flooded the car. Headlights. Someone had pulled into the driveway behind them. The beam of light cut through the rain, blinding them for a moment. Marcus's face changed instantly. The anger drained away, replaced by something she had never seen in him before. Fear. He turned off the engine and stared into the mirror. "No," he whispered under his breath. "Not now." Amelia twisted in her seat, trying to see through the rain. A black SUV was parked behind them. The driver's door opened, and a woman stepped out, holding an umbrella. The rain splashed around her boots as she walked toward the car. Amelia recognized her immediately, Detective Monroe. The same detective who had handled Leah's case 2 years ago. Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His voice dropped low. "Why is she here?" Amelia's heart pounded. "Marcus," she said carefully. "What's going on?" He didn't answer. His eyes darted between the mirror and the woman approaching. Detective Monroe tapped on Marcus's window. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller?" she called out, her voice steady but serious. Marcus hesitated, then rolled down the window halfway. "Detective, that's late. What are you doing here?" Monroe tilted her head slightly, her eyes sharp even in the dim light. "I'm sorry for the timing," she said, But something important has come up regarding Leah Anderson's disappearance. Amelia's stomach twisted at the name. My sister, she asked quickly. Did you find something? Monroe's gaze shifted to her. Yes, Mrs. Miller. We recovered a personal item near the old riverbank, a bracelet your sister used to wear. Amelia's breath caught. Leah never went anywhere without that bracelet. Is she? She couldn't finish the sentence. Monroe looked back at Marcus. It was found with a fingerprint, she said slowly. A recent one. Marcus's hand slipped from the steering wheel. This is insane, he said quietly, his voice shaking. You can't just show up in the middle of the night with accusations. I'm not accusing, Monroe replied calmly. I'm here to ask a few questions. Would you both step out of the car, please? The air inside the car grew heavy. Amelia could feel her pulse in her ears. Marcus didn't move. He stared straight ahead, rain streaking down the windshield, his breathing uneven. Amelia finally opened her door. The rain hit her face, cold and sharp, but she didn't care. She stepped out slowly, her heart racing. Detective Monroe turned to her. You're safe, Mrs. Miller, she said quietly. I just need you to stay inside the house while we talk. Amelia nodded, glancing back at Marcus. He was still sitting behind the wheel, frozen, his face pale. For the first time that night, Amelia realized this wasn't about her phone, or even about the messages. This was about Leah. And Marcus was terrified, not of her, but of what was coming next. Detective Monroe stood firm in the rain, her umbrella steady against the wind. Her voice was calm, but carried a weight that made Amelia's stomach twist. Mr. Miller, Monroe said, we found something near the old riverbank, your sister-in-law Leah's bracelet. It has your fingerprint on it. Marcus's face went pale. For a second he didn't speak. Then he forced a laugh, sharp and cold. That's ridiculous. I told you before, I haven't seen Leah since that family party. She probably dropped it somewhere before she ran off. Monroe didn't blink. The print was recent. The bracelet wasn't buried for long. Amelia's heart began to race. Recent, she whispered. How could it be recent? She's been missing for 2 years. Marcus turned toward her quickly. Don't listen to this, he snapped. They're trying to twist things again. You know how police work. They find anything and want to blame someone. But Amelia's head was spinning. The detective's words replayed in her mind. Marcus's fingerprint. Recent. Something inside her began to crack. Images flashed through her memory. Marcus coming home late at night, the smell of dirt on his shoes, the keys he'd lost for days, the way Leah had avoided him during family gatherings. She remembered Leah's last words that night. You need to open your eyes, Amy. Amelia's throat went dry. She looked at Marcus, and for the first time, she didn't see her husband. She saw a stranger. Detective Monroe took a step forward. Mrs. Miller, please go inside. You don't need to be here right now. Marcus quickly moved in front of her. No, he said sharply. She's not going anywhere. You can't just barge into my home and try to destroy my family with lies. Monroe kept her gaze steady. Mr. Miller, we're not here to argue. This is a police matter now. Rain poured harder, soaking through Amelia's clothes, but she barely noticed. Her whole world was spinning. Marcus, she whispered, why was your fingerprint on Leah's bracelet? He turned to her, his eyes full of anger. Because I touched it before. Maybe I picked it up once at the house. I don't know. Are you really taking her side over your husband's? Amelia's lips trembled. I'm just asking. Enough, he shouted, cutting her off. Monroe signaled to another officer by the SUV, her expression tense. Mr. Miller, calm down. Marcus ran his hand through his wet hair, his chest rising and falling fast. He looked trapped, cornered, like a man running out of lies. Monroe spoke again, her tone firm. We also traced the messages sent to Mrs. Miller's phone. They came from a prepaid SIM card found in your office. Would you like to explain that? Amelia's head snapped up. What? She whispered. From his office? Marcus froze. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His face turned from anger to pure panic. That's impossible, he muttered. Someone planted it there. But his voice was shaking now. Amelia took a step back, her heart pounding. You've been pretending to be Leah? She said, her voice small and broken. You made me think she was alive? Why, Marcus? Why would you do that? He grabbed her arm roughly, his eyes wild. Don't twist this, he hissed. You think you know everything, but you don't. You don't know what she did. What I did for you. Monroe shouted. Let her go, Marcus. Amelia's tears mixed with the rain. Her voice was trembling, but there was strength beneath it. You've lied to me for years, controlled me, made me doubt myself. He tightened his grip. You think you can walk away from me? She met his eyes, her fear fading into anger. No, Marcus. I think I'm finally seeing you. For a long moment, they stood frozen in the storm, husband and wife, truth and lies crashing together. Then the distant sound of sirens broke through the night. Blue and red lights flickered through the trees. Marcus's head snapped toward the sound. Monroe had called for backup. He let go of Amelia, breathing hard. You'll regret this, he said, his voice low and full of venom. And before anyone could move, he turned and ran, disappearing into the woods behind the house, his figure swallowed by the darkness and rain. Amelia stood shaking, tears streaming down her face. As the flashing lights grew closer, the storm howled around her, but inside, something was changing. The fear that had trapped her for years was slowly being replaced by something new. Strength. Amelia, soaked and shaking, followed the flashing red and blue lights into the woods. The rain had turned the ground into mud, making it hard to move, but she didn't stop. Her heart pounded in her chest, and every breath came out shaky and cold. She could hear Marcus's voice echoing through the trees, angry, desperate, and full of fear. Amelia, he shouted somewhere ahead. You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Police officers ran ahead with flashlights, their beams cutting through the darkness. Branches snapped under their boots, dogs barked in the distance, and thunder rolled across the sky. Amelia stumbled after them, clutching her chest. Marcus, please, she cried. Tell the truth. He kept running, pushing through branches soaked to the bone. His voice broke as he yelled again. It was an accident. Everything was an accident. The word accident echoed in her ears. She stopped for a second, frozen in the rain. Accident? Her legs trembled as she followed the voices deeper into the woods. The police spread out, shouting orders. Then, through the glare of a flashlight, she saw him, Marcus, standing near an old, abandoned cabin. His clothes were drenched, his face pale, his eyes wide with guilt. Marcus, she whispered, stepping closer. What did you do? He turned slowly, rain dripping from his hair. His voice shook. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me, she said, her tone trembling but steady. He laughed bitterly, a sound full of pain and madness. You always thought I was the monster, didn't you? You always took her side. Amelia's throat tightened. You're talking about Leah. He nodded, his face twisting. She wouldn't stop. She wanted to tell you everything. She said she was done lying. The truth hit Amelia like a punch to the stomach. You and Leah? She whispered. You were having an affair? Marcus stepped closer, his voice desperate. It wasn't supposed to happen. You were always at work, always too tired, too busy saving everyone else. And she understood me. Amelia's vision blurred with tears. She was my sister, Marcus. He looked away, his voice cracking. She came to the cabin that night. She said she was going to tell you everything. I tried to stop her. We argued, she slipped. I didn't mean to. He pressed his hands to his face, shaking. She hit her head. It was over before I could do anything. Amelia covered her mouth, choking on a sob. Oh my God. I panicked, he shouted, his voice breaking apart. I buried her near the cabin. I told myself it was the only way to protect us, to protect you. Her tears mixed with the rain. You didn't protect me, she whispered. You destroyed me. Marcus's voice softened, almost pleading. You wouldn't have survived without me, Amelia. I kept you safe. I gave you everything. She looked at him. The man she once loved, now trembling and small under the flashing lights. No, Marcus, she said quietly. You controlled me. You broke me. And yet, I survived you. The police officers moved closer, surrounding him. Marcus Miller, one shouted. Put your hands where we can see them. Marcus turned, his eyes darting wildly, like an animal cornered. No, he muttered. No, this isn't how it ends. He took one step back, but the officers were already there. Two of them lunged forward, grabbing his arms, forcing him to the ground. He fought for a second, screaming Amelia's name, but it was over. The handcuffs clicked shut. The forest went quiet except for the sound of the rain and Amelia's quiet sobs. She fell to her knees, her hands sinking into the mud. The truth, the horrible, unbearable truth, had finally come out. Leah was gone, and Marcus had been the one to take her. As the police led him away, Marcus turned to look at her one last time. His voice was faint but bitter. "You'll never forget me, Amelia." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The rain began to slow, softening into a gentle drizzle. The storm that had raged all night finally began to fade, as if the world itself was taking a deep breath. Amelia sat there, crying silently, feeling both broken and free. For the first time in years, the fear inside her was gone. All that was left was grief, and the fragile beginning of peace. Weeks later, Amelia returns to work, looking calm and quietly strong. Her coworkers welcome her with warm smiles and gentle words. She doesn't say much, but her eyes show peace, a kind she hasn't felt in a long time. After work, she visits Leah's grave, now properly marked with her sister's name. The cemetery is quiet, the wind soft. Amelia kneels down and places a single white lily on the grave. "You can rest now, Leah," she whispers. Her voice trembles, but her heart feels lighter. A few days later, she opens her mail and finds a handwritten letter from Detective Monroe. The detective thanks her for her bravery and for standing up in court. Amelia folds the letter carefully and smiles. For the first time, she doesn't feel like a victim. She feels like a survivor. Through short flashbacks, we see moments from her therapy sessions. Amelia learning that love is not supposed to hurt, that control is not care. She learns how to set boundaries, how to breathe again, how to trust herself. Soon after, Amelia puts the house she shared with Marcus up for sale. Every corner holds painful memories, but she no longer feels trapped. When the sale is complete, she donates part of the money to a foundation that helps families of missing women. She wants Leah's story to bring light, not darkness. One evening, she walks through a park as the sun sets. Kids play nearby, laughter echoing in the air. Amelia sits on a bench, watching the colors of the sky fade into gold. She closes her eyes and breathes deeply. She smiles, not because everything is perfect, but because she finally owns her peace. For the first time in years, she feels free. Amelia stands in the rain again, this time by choice. No one is yelling, no one is forcing her outside. She walks slowly into the open street, her face lifted toward the sky. Cold drops fall against her skin, but she doesn't flinch. Instead, she smiles softly. The rain feels different now, not heavy, not cruel. It feels cleansing. Every drop seems to wash away the fear, the pain, and the years she spent trying to please someone who never truly saw her. Her clothes cling to her body, her hair soaked, but she doesn't care. She spreads her arms slightly, breathing in the scent of wet earth. For the first time, the storm isn't something to run from. It's something she stands through, strong, alive, unbroken. In a quiet voice, almost like a whisper carried by the wind, her thoughts echo. "He dragged me into the storm to break me, but the storm became where I found myself." She closes her eyes for a moment, then opens them with calm determination. The rain begins to slow, and a faint light peeks through the clouds. Amelia walks toward her car, steady and sure. Her footsteps splash through puddles, each one leaving a clear mark behind, proof that she was here, that she survived. Before she gets in, she turns back one last time, gazing at the dark sky now softening into gray. And then comes the quiet question, not from her lips, but from her soul. How many storms have you survived without realizing you were the thunder all along? Hi, besties, two hearts, thank you so much for watching till the end. Cloud with rain sparkles if you felt Amelia's story in your heart. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories. See you in the next one. By Sparkling Heart.